Hello, everyone. We are back with another interview in the Real 50 Over 50. And this week we have Randye Kaye. And her career is a mosaic of colorful pieces all tied to her passion for human connection. She inspires audiences to rehumanize and re energize, connect, create, collaborate. She's got two best selling books, Happier Made Simple and Ben Behind His Voices. And they're tied to her work as a motivational speaker, radio, and podcast host, actress, singer, teacher, and mental health advocate. She's a master facilitator with companies such as Communico Inc. and leads webinars and in-person sessions on customer service, emotional intelligence. Hold on, we're having a technical difficulty on Facebook.
I hear the ding,
Sorry.
ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, Facebook sometimes decides it doesn't want to work, but I'm going to just keep going and make believe that didn't happen.
Okay.
So she is, where was I?
Emotional intelligence, I think.
Okay, emotional. She.
You want me to read it? I can read it.
No, no,
I'm a
no, no,
voice
no.
over
She's not.
talent.
No, 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 no. I'm going to do it. She's a master facilitator with companies such as Communico and leads webinars and in-person sessions on customer service, emotional intelligence, presentation skills, and communication. Her recent workshops and keynotes address mental wellness, empathy, life balance, creativity, teamwork, and the importance of human connection and engagement, especially humor. Randye is also a prolific voice talent, stage and improv actor, and audiobook narrator. She brings these skills to her interactive presentations. And last but not least, she's the co host of the podcast Schizophrenia, Three Moms in the Trenches. Welcome, Randye. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Thank you. This is life. This is life live. When I do my podcasts, we occasionally do a live episode, but mostly we pre-record. So, but I don't do much editing, just is what it is, right?
It is what it is. Well, sometimes I film all of this on StreamYard, and it usually streams beautifully to all the platforms. But every once in a while, Facebook decides it doesn't want to play and kicks us out just as I hit live.
Oh, have we been kicked out? We're not
We've
sure.
been kicked out. So we're not on Facebook. If you're trying to find us on Facebook, go to LinkedIn. All right, let's get into it.
All right.
So, what happened when you turned 50?
A couple of things. My kids were at that age 20 and 18. So, like your son, they were almost grown or thought they were grown. And so my daughter was off to college, and I had a beautiful single woman empty nest for a while. So there's that experience, and it didn't last long, not gonna lie, but I had a few months of the empty nest. And but there's a transition. Life is just full of transitions. And so there was that, like, who am I if I'm not actively raising these people, if I'm basically letting them, I'm just a safety net. So there's that. And then somewhere into my 50s, I also had to redefine my career, as actors do many, many times. And in my 50s, a major blow as a parent came when my son was diagnosed with a serious mental illness, and that kind of changes everything. So,
Yeah, and we'll talk about that too,
okay.
because let's dive right into it since we're here.
Okay.
Like self-esteem, resilience, and mental wellness, these things all work together and against each other.
Yes, they do. Well, everything is a mosaic, as it says in the introduction, and it doesn't often come clear until you see the whole thing. So my son, who for publicity purposes, his name is Ben. It's not his real name, but that is the name we chose together when I wrote the book. As a mother, children are the light of your life and a major focus. I thought the contract was 18 years long, but turns out it's a lifelong contract when you're a parent.
They lied in the brochure.
Yeah, I know. They totally lied.
Totally fiction.
I raised them mostly as a single parent. When I was 35 years ago, my husband called to say, "Hi, kids, Daddy loves you." And we didn't hear from him again for 12 years. So at that time, I was left with two kids with broken hearts, no closure, a mystery to solve. Where was he? A sporadic actor's income. And a big mortgage and no child support. So again, resilience. We did pretty well though. I was aware and a therapist. And then around high school, my son began to change and show signs of what I thought was a tough adolescence. Many years later, because it develops gradually, it turned out to be a pretty severe case of schizophrenia. And obviously that changes so many things in the family. I ended up writing a book about our experience. At the time, there were no memoirs out about schizophrenia and its effects on the family that ended in hope.
Mhm.
And it sold really well and was traditionally published. And I got to travel all over the world to talk to psychiatric associations and pharmaceutical companies about our story. Obviously, the story has continued. It is still a challenge to support my son in in a way that lets him have his life, but also respects my own boundaries. So that
Mhm.
is a constant um, pursuit of my life. But like many parents, I also need to have my own joy and find my own joy. And hence, 10 years later came the book Happier Made Simple, because people kept going, how can you stay so upbeat? You've had, this husband abandoned you, this happened and that happened. And say it's no big news. I'm not the first one to say it. It's about your self-talk. It's about what you tell yourself about what happens. And also, obviously, feeling the uncomfortable feelings and
Mhm.
letting them be what they are. So that began an unexpected career as an author and speaker.
Yeah. And I think that when you share your story, particularly if it's a hard story, it's
Mhm.
healing, and it's helping other people. It's in service.
Yeah. It's all about story.
Mhm.
We all have stories, and every story has a lot of different points to make. And
Mhm.
so you juxtapose that um, journey as a parent of a child with a disability and or an illness really, and then you look at the joy of raising him up to that point and still the occasional joys I get in the moments that are working.
Mhm.
And obviously, I have another child, and I'm a Grammy to three young, 5, 6, and 7.5-year-old kids. So there's a part of the lessons for me is finding the joy in life. You got to
Mhm.
find your joy, notice your joy, live your joy, spread the joy. And joy is kind of a woo-woo word. That's why I call the book Happier Made Simple, not Happiness Made Simple, because we're not supposed to be happy 100% of the time.
Mhm.
But I also find that as an actor whose entire art is about people, is about community, is about engagement with the other actors on stage, with the other members of your improv troupe, with your audience. There is a cycle of connection and conversation that goes on once you get that improv show or rehearsed theater piece up on stage. It is different every night,
Sure.
depending on who's in the audience. So there's always that cycle of communication where it changes you
Yeah.
and you change them, and yet you stay within the parameters of the boundaries that the play script has set or the director has set. So when I speak about creativity and community, I kind of shake up the think outside the box. I'm like, no, think inside the box, explore the box. What's in the corners of the box? How far can I push the walls of the box? Who's in the box with me? How can we help each other?
Mhm.
I kind of shake up some of those cliches. As a parent, finding joy even with a severe trauma in my family, I have to re-examine you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. I can't live that
Mhm.
way. I can't live that way. So kind of shaking things up, and the gift of community is what has kept me going
Yeah.
through having a severe mental illness, and my son, the community at National Alliance on Mental Illness, my podcast, Schizophrenia, Three Moms in the Trenches, and all the listeners in that community, they really help. We help keep each other sane. And I
Yeah.
think that
And
that's really important.
not knowing that you're not alone has got
Mhm.
to be a
Huge.
tremendous support, in that part of your life,
It
because
is
it
so
can
huge.
be so isolating when you pull in instead of reach out.
Yes, absolutely. When I speak at conferences about the 3 simple steps to take to make this the best conference ever,
Mhm.
reach out is step number 2.
Well, let's share all of them.
Okay, well, step number 1 is show up.
Okay.
I am a huge believer in the value of showing up. Show up to the wedding, show up to the bar mitzvah, show up to the
Mm.
funeral, show up with a thank you note, visit someone in the hospital. The actions speak so much like go to the conference, like pay the money and go to the conference. Just take it. I am more of an extrovert than an introvert, and we all need our alone time in varying degrees. But when you show up for other people, they never forget it. So showing
Mhm.
up is step 1. And in these days, with the epidemic of loneliness, it's because so many of us have this illusion of connection because we are just, as you and I, we've never met personally.
No.
And yet, I'm all about connection.
I
So
know, and you know what? This morning, and I sat down because I don't do a lot of prep for these things. Some
yeah.
people I know better than others,
Mhm.
but I sat down and I started to kind of prepare for your interview, and I was like, "Oh, I know her better than I think I do."
Well, you've seen me, we've seen each other at meetings and I'm often direct, which sometimes throws people, but I think that if we fix it, it's fine.
It's not
And
even a
what a
fixing.
gift
It's
we
it's
got of
it's just a
community.
dialogue. It's dialogue,
Exactly.
listening at before we go off on a tangent, what's number
Yeah.
3?
Okay, gift of community. Yes, so we talked about that, and yeah.
No, but what's number 3 of your 3
Oh,
points?
yeah, reach
Show up,
out to
reach
and
out,
let in. Let in.
let in.
Let in other people's ideas. Let in other people's stories. Let in their expertise. I am so grateful to you for your expertise in something I would have poo-pooed, which is the value of correctly using AI with ethics and with your own input and creativity. Without you, without getting to know you and without this community, I especially because I'm an audiobook narrator and we do not want AI to be
No,
narrating
no,
our books.
no.
I learned from you that AI is a tool you use with your own creativity as the main engine.
Yeah,
It is
and
not the engine.
it's
So
not.
that's let people in.
Yeah. I
Let
I
people in.
I shared something that I wrote with a friend of mine the other day, and she goes, "Oh, did you use AI for this?" I said, "No, I don't ever use AI for my writing. I use it to just I it's a thought partner. That's how I view it."
Yeah, it's like a brainstorming partner
Oh,
who sometimes comes up with stupid things.
well, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
asked AI for, like,
it's no
top
different than people.
it's only as smart as what people have put in, so it's interesting, it's another tool, and if we hadn't reached out to each other,
Mhm.
it never would have been there, just so.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you see that because, it is incredibly helpful, and it's gonna be in everything it's already in everything we do.
Mhm,
So, we're all going to be at a disadvantage if we're not using it, and, the way to really use it is to use it that's best for you. I mean, I really think it's a personal relationship.
mhm. That's a very good way to put it. I think it's true. So when I talk about engage for maximum impact, to
Mhm.
open a conference or as a breakout session, it's just to remind us to be together
Yeah,
more than the current social media climate would lead us to believe we need.
yeah.
There was a movie, I wanna early Sandra Bullock era called The Net,
Mhm.
and it was just when the internet was, "Whoa, what is this?" We were on our
Exactly.
modems, I'm over 50, so I remember being on a modem and waiting for AOL and, waiting for that
That
sound.
crunching noise.
So in this movie, Sandra Bullock is a really frightened introvert, and introverted not to get energy, but introverted out of fear.
Mhm.
And there's difference. So, and she was sitting at her computer. I don't know if you remember the movie, but the beginning of it is like, oh, she's ordering pizza on the internet and it shows up at her door. That is so amazing. And we were like, you people can do that. And of course, all good movies have a transition, character transition of growth where people help each other. But that's how we're living now. Especially with COVID, we learned you don't have to leave your home, and yet there's a minister of loneliness in the UK. Our Surgeon General has declared an epidemic of loneliness, and part of that is that we have sort of forgotten that we rely on each other. It's invisible how we rely on each other. Yesterday, I was driving to my daughter's house to meet the school bus, and my car, my beloved Honda, started sputtering and all the lights went on the way
Ooh.
home. So I'm like, just let me get to the driveway. Just let me get to the driveway. So I get there and I called AAA, and it was sort of a journey to get somebody to help. But anyway, they came, and the tow truck driver was so lovely, and my 3 grandchildren came out to watch the show
Oh, that
because
was
it's a
exciting.
flatbed truck, and one of them's a boy, so he's not that
Yeah.
girls don't like trucks, but,
Mhm. Yeah,
they're
it's
kind of typical
something.
in that way. Um, and I was looking at that truck and the wonder of it all, the wonder of who built the truck, who decided what width of cable would support my Honda CR-V, who who even will know how to fix my car? Who
Mhm.
is willing to leave his family a few days before Christmas and come out and tow my car to the hunt? There are so many people involved in rescuing my car and me, and yet it seems as if we forget that. We forget to be grateful to other people, whether we see them or not, for everything that we have.
Yeah,
And this illusion of connection has made us, and now there is mental illness, and then there is mental conditions that can be corrected with community. My son has a mental illness. He needs medication to balance his brain. That's different from um, severe depression that's medical, or depression just like,
that's
I'm
situational.
situational depression. So, and I think situational depression, research has shown, can be helped by 3 things: get outside more, exercise more, and have community.
Yes.
In every single study on happiness that I've read, including the latest one from Harvard, the happiest people are the people with community.
Mhm.
With the amount of community they need, with the amount of connection and engagement with other people that they need. When I speak about mental wellness at work and beyond, a workshop that I created for a particular company because I love collaboration, I don't even read them the Harvard book. I just show them the table of contents, and every single chapter has the word connection in it.
Mm.
And this is like an 80-year study on happiness, so it's not a new problem. And the key to
And
any change is awareness. So if we remember that we're meant to be together, we're meant to connect. Just like the roots of a tree in a forest, you may not see it, but it's there. And again, varying degrees. Shout out to the introverts who get a lot of energy from being alone so that they can go to the outside world. And a shout out to the extroverts like me who get their energy from other people so they can be alone, and everybody in between. But it- none of us want to be all alone in the world on a desert island forever. I don't think that's really anybody's dream, except maybe a mother with 3 kids under 3 who it sounds like a good idea for a while. But, so, yeah, so, human engagement at work, at home, to the degree that you need it, and that change starts with awareness. That is what I speak about. That is what I teach, and I use my experience as an actor and as an improv actor. That kind of brings a special little twist to what I do. It's always interactive because you don't
Mhm.
want to hear me talk for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
And
and, it's so true. When I first moved to where I live now, I didn't know anybody. I had just had a baby, and I was a single parent, and I'm smack in the dab of suburbia, and, like, I'm a city person. I didn't know how to be in suburbia. It didn't come with a handbook.
triple whammy. Why did you do all that to yourself in 1 year?
Because I made some really bad decisions while I was pregnant. People shouldn't, like, buy real estate when they're pregnant. That should be against the law.
Mm. Lesson.
Um,
What would you tell your younger self?
yeah,
Okay.
um, and what I noticed, my son was, like, 3, 4 years old, and women would talk to me during the week, on the weekends when their husbands were around. They wouldn't talk to me because I had the scarlet letter, and, like, I might try and steal their husband, the husband that they just complained about for a whole week. I was like, "I don't want him, you can keep him."
You know,
Happy.
same, same. When
Like,
my husband left us when my kids were 3 and 6, and we used to have play dates, I
yeah,
felt such a camaraderie until 5 o'clock came when they were
yeah,
making dinner for their husbands. That
yeah,
was
and
the end of the
then and
world.
then and then you're the pariah, and, it took
Mhm.
until my son started school, and we met other families, and, I mean, I'm the most incredible community that I built. I basically raised my child in, like, this commune that we created with 4 different
Mhm.
families that all had, 1 child, and they grew up as siblings. And they all had beds in each other's houses, and we just moved them around. And then as parents, we never had to do anything that we didn't wanna do, like, I never had to go to a water park. I'm germ phobic, don't put me in a water park.
Oh, I love that.
And we raised them like that, and, they're still close, and, like, my son will come home from school, and he'll just go hang out with his other parents. And, like, when he was really little, like, they would say, "Well, have your mom do this," and they were like he was like, "Which mom?"
Oh my god, Donna, I love this. I never knew that about you.
Yeah, so we had this great experience of raising them together, and, one of the things as a only child, I was always nervous that he wouldn't know how to have a good fight, not like a fist fight, but like a debate, an argument, opposing
Yeah,
ideas, and, you learn that from siblings.
you do.
And, he learned it. He learned it from these, homemade like, ready-made siblings that we had, and, for a short period of time, he was asking for a sibling, and I was like, "You don't get any choices. You get what you get, and you don't get upset." And I was like, "You have 3 that you actually chose. These were your friends from kindergarten." I said, "Isn't that good enough?" And he thought about it for a little bit, and he was like, "I'd have to share my room?" I was like, "Yeah." "I'd have to share my basement?" "Yeah."
Mm.
"I'd have to share you?" "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, I'm good with this."
Wow, but he also had that's wonderful. Are they all boys, these friends?
1 girl and 2 other boys.
1 girl and 2 other boys. I just love this so much. I would love to steal the story, but I won't. But it's
You
just such
can,
a
you can.
great example
You
of the
absolutely
value.
can, because if this encourages other people to live this way, as a single parent, I would not have survived without them.
And I do believe, the book in the back of my head I'd like to write. You heard it here first, trademark, end of
Breaking news,
2023.
breaking news.
It would just and I it's just called Sibs,
Yeah.
how they love us, how they hate us, how they drive us crazy.
Mhm.
Because it is important to have those people in your family to make you go through the hard times because they're family. And not everybody embraces that message, and when we're all grown-ups, we can go, "All right, look, my brothers don't talk to each other.
Mhm.
I can't fix I can't fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fix it. That's their thing." But when my son was so ill and we thought we might lose him, um, and he was away being homeless for 5 months, and my daughter said, "I don't want to be an only child." And I said, "You will never be an only child. Even if the worst happens, you'll never be an only child because you were raised with a brother.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
is part of your foundation and still is.
Mhm.
And my brothers are part of my foundation and still are. And so what you created for your son is that they were able to fight and make up,
Yeah.
and friends do that too, but I just love what you did.
Yeah. And, like, I come from 4 children, and,
Mm,
like what you were just talking about, it's like it's this, like, innate knowledge of each other's DNA
mhm.
that you just know. It's like this undercurrent of it, and my son had that with his, put together family.
So not genetic DNA, but experience DNA.
Yeah, because they went, I mean, you've studied mental health, all of the things are kind of saved before you're 7 years old, right? All of those memories, all of those experiences, this is what makes you who you are,
Yeah.
and this all started when he was, like, 4.
That's wonderful. And they'll be best men and women at each other's weddings and things like that. And and I truly believe that there's something about the chemistry of love, that there's a reason you're drawn to your best friend when you're 5.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it's not just circumstance. And like in life, sometimes we work with people that we wouldn't be chemically drawn to. And yet, because we do things together, I mean, theater is full of experiences like that.
Mm.
If when you get out of high school, when you get out of college, and you actually get cast in a professional play, and you're like, oh, the 80-year-old is played by an 80-year-old. That's interesting. Instead of college, everybody's being like, if you're short, you get to play the kids. So it's very different when you go into actual theater and you realize, oh, I'm going to be working with children and grandparents, and some of the people you love and some of the people you learn to love or at least appreciate, because
Mm.
you're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I have, as many actresses will tell you, I have worked with people who we were far from drawn to each other off stage, but on stage, we had to pretend to be, with as much truth as possible. And it is possible to develop a love for somebody's onstage persona
Mhm.
and just appreciate what it is they have to give in that position. We've all been in work situations where maybe you wouldn't pick these people out in kindergarten as your best friends, but the experience can draw you together.
Yeah.
And that's what happens at conferences sometimes. You're here together for 3 days, and the smallest of encounters can affect you for a lifetime. You just never know. Waiting online for the ladies' room, that you may meet someone who might say something that you're gonna carry with you forever, and you never know if you're going to say something.
Yeah.
You're either on stage or waiting online for the buffet that might make somebody feel good that day.
Yeah. And that has always been my
Mhm.
approach to social media. You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening.
Or who can listen forever. And that goes with the bad as well as the good, which is why
Exactly.
you wanna be as polite as you can.
And not so much even polite, you wanna be you.
Mm,
You don't because I mean, I've been doing this a long time, helping people with their marketing and social media, their presence online, and people automatically, without even having a reason why, automatically think that they need to be somebody else online. And it's the furthest thing from the truth because what you're doing, like, when you show up as yourself 100%,
mhm,
somebody can find you for whatever reason that they find you. But they're now encountering you in their comfort zone, on their own time, in their own space. There's
mm,
no pressure, there's no, they don't have to, like, ramp up to be in a conversation, or they don't have to know a certain thing, or they just get to experience you in the way that is the most authentic to them. And when you're showing up as somebody else, you're not really there in that relationship. But when you can show up as you, and this person is now like
mm.
establishing a relationship with you being off doing whatever else that you do, whatever else it is that you do,
That's
that's where the
interesting.
magic happens. That's when they go, oh, and let me see what she's doing over here. And oh, that's interesting. And oh, let me dig here. And that's the magic of social media. And again,
When you're authentic.
it
When you're
happens
authentic.
it happens for the good and it happens for the bad.
Right.
But that's the thing. You just need to
Yes.
be you all the time because you never know who's gonna see it.
I agree with you, and that is an improv thing, yes, and
Mhm.
I would add that what I meant by polite is mindful.
Mhm.
Don't hit send too quickly. We've all had people who have,
Yes.
but if in an extreme mood or in maybe too playful a mood, said something that ended up hurting somebody.
Yeah.
So I would say you wanna be authentic, but also, maybe count to 5 before you hit send
Mhm.
sometimes.
Mhm.
Use the internet for good if you can. On the other hand, I'm as I love laughter, and I love genuine laughter and the value of humor, and that has been true in my work when I was a radio morning personality. Listen, and what I learned from 7 years of doing morning radio, and even my years doing PM drive radio where I was the only disc jockey, but in the morning I had guys with me so we could chat. It was more of a conversation.
Mhm.
And what I learned is that people wanted to hear about your mistakes. They didn't want to hear about your successes. They wanted to hear, okay, please somebody call up and tell me how to torture a 12-year-old without really hurting him because my son is driving me crazy. Like, that's what people wanted to hear. They wanted to hear the story of how you forgot to open the garage door before you backed out of the garage. Like,
Yeah.
that's what people wanted to hear. And in terms of things that happen to us, there's a difference between inconvenience and tragedy.
Ooh.
So yesterday with the tow truck, that was an inconvenience.
Mhm.
My son's illness, that was, I did not joke about that on the air. Although I
Mhm.
will say in my circles of friends on my podcast, Schizophrenia, Three Moms in the Trenches, we do a little laughing because you've got to sometimes, but you have to consider the audience and consider at work, for instance, you never want to laugh at, you don't want to poke fun of someone else, you poke fun of yourself. Poke fun of yourself because you never know when humor, you want to laugh with, not laugh at.
Mhm.
I think that's true everywhere in
Mhm.
work and in life. So if you want to poke fun at yourself, as long as you're not hitting your own sore spot,
Mhm.
which could be like, if you really feel that you're klutzy, don't say, oh, I'm such a klutz, because then you're just going to label yourself and that's bad. But,
Yeah.
I can poke fun at myself of someone who has made a few errors because 2 years after I broke my garage door, I was dealing with car seats and getting, at the time, toddlers out of my car, and I forgot to close the passenger door. And then the garage door was open. I looked, I went, okay, great. Back out. But the passenger door was open and my car, my Honda was fine. The garage almost fell down and it was, I had to call so it's like, all right, Randye and garages, we
Mm,
need to not have a third
yeah.
time. So,
Curbside topic for you.
but if I was like the hero of that story, that would not be as fun. So I think that humor, when it's connected humor and
Mhm.
not cruel humor,
Yeah.
gets us through a lot of stuff.
It does, and when you share it, it's almost like giving people permission to not be perfect.
Mhm. Yes, very true. And it's all about that engagement. I remember, this is a whole other story, and I'm aware we're running out of time, but there was a period in my life where I had had several surgeries and I was hit by a car and it was a whole thing. But I had to spend a year. I hate the word had to, but I'll just make it neutral. I spent a year in a leg brace because there was nerve damage to my leg and my knee did not respond to my brain. And luckily, nerves grow back, and I did eventually regain about 65%. So I can walk. I made it through Disney World. I can't run or jump, but I can walk, and I'm grateful. I went for a lot of physical therapy, and the physical therapists that made me cry were the ones that didn't laugh at my jokes. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was trying to find humor in my own situation, and the ones that were like, "Oh, yeah, walkers really are hard. Those tennis balls just really do get dirty, and dogs wanna play with them." Like, if they would laugh with me,
Mm,
we could work together better, and maybe that's because one of my love languages, I think there are 6. I know the book has 5. My 6th love language is humor,
yeah,
but connected humor that's appropriate to the situation and the person you're engaging with.
I agree
And,
100%, and
you know,
that's how I handle medical situations as well.
when you're there, now, and whenever you have a trauma, I have 7 core phrases in my book. Here's what I tell myself to make myself feel better, kind of phrases, as self-talk is important. And, one of them is all will be well, which is sort of trust in the universe, but, and also it is what it is, which is I didn't make that up, obviously, it's a reality check, and that works, but it doesn't work automatically. Like,
Mm,
if you have a big trauma, like you broke your leg, you don't go, or worse, you don't go, "Oh, well, it is what it is." Like, it takes some time to process the pain and then when you've processed it, then you might find your way back to humor.
yeah,
So humor has a timing to it, and that's true on stage and it's true in life. You kind of feel when it's okay to joke about something. They still can't joke about the Lincoln assassination on late night talk shows. It's still too soon. So there's certain things that are off the table when it comes to humor, and you've got to feel the timing. And that's true as an actor. And I think it's true as connected, engaged people.
Yeah, and that takes it back to listening.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the most underutilized skill.
Very true. Very true.
On that note, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And if you're watching on the replay, please put comments, tag us. We'll come back. We'll continue the conversation and chat in the comments, and come back next week. We've got another interview every Wednesday at noon Eastern time. We are booking now into November 2024, so we've got a lot. We should reach 100 women, if not by the end of December, early January, which is really exciting.
That's so exciting. You're finding amazing women. Some of these other conversations I've so enjoyed. A lot of, what did you say yesterday? Accumulated wisdom? What did you call it? You called it something, and I wrote it down, but it was on like a Post-it note, and I
I don't know. When you
transferred
when you
it.
find it, let me know what I said. I
I
don't know
will.
what I said, but
I'll
I
let you know
mean,
how brilliant you were.
it's it's the stories we all need to share. It's the
Mhm.
stories we all need to hear. It really is. So
Perfect note to end on.
have
The
a
time.
very happy holiday, everybody, and we will be back next week. And connect with Randye on her website, randyk.com, or come on over to the Real 50 Over 50. She's on there too. Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Donna.